My dear brothers and sisters, I welcome you once again to the 24th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Today, the readings explains to us the attitude of forgiveness. This follows from last Sunday's readings of the 23rd Sunday. We were told last Sunday to be in charge of each other, to be whistleblowers when we see danger affecting our families and our communities and our society. But much more, we were told to be responsible and take good care of one another. Remember, I told you that story of the couple in the plane, and the plane has not yet landed. I don't know when it landed, what happened then. That was exactly the meaning of last Sunday's reading. Today explains now clearly to us that there is no way we can hold to rights. That's what you hear throughout the world. My dear brothers and sisters, just before going to these readings, the retired Archbishop of South Africa says in his book, there is no future without forgiveness. That's Desmond Tutu. Some of you who are readers, you might have come through that book. It's a quite small, simple book. When he was appointed as one of the chair for Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And he came up with that book, No Future Without Forgiveness. My dear brothers and sisters, St. Peter, or Peter, a very controversial figure in the scriptures, he always come up with very strong and serious questions to Jesus. Today he asked, how many times? How many times am I supposed to forgive? According to Peter, there must be a limit where you cannot forgive anymore. Where did he get that mentality? That was the mentality of his people, where he lived. Peter was living among people who think that forgiveness can only be done twice. The third time, it is not acceptable. And worse still if it is 4 times. Now, in his question, he put it to Jesus 7. That one is, he added even 3 more. And Jesus said again, not even 7. 70 times 7. How many years will it take somebody to make 70 mistakes times 7 and be forgiven by the same person? My dear brothers and sisters, this explains to us what is happening around us. We have people among us whom we know they are really problematic. Too noisy, too complicated, I don't know how. They just don't listen. You have neighbors who open up music the whole night, and you want to meditate, you want to read, you want to write, you cannot even listen to one another. They don't care what is happening outside themselves. This is selfishness. As a person, we are connected to people, and we are connected to people's feelings. Don't think that what you do is always and always right. And sometimes you override that right. In the Old Testament, it has been agreed in that famous law, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a leg for a leg, a wound for a wound. That is what was agreed as a bottom line. Again, why? Because there was exaggeration. When somebody in a community makes a mistake and knocks you, remove your teeth, your tooth, one, you go and get a big stone, throw him down, and remove all his teeth. You lost one, but this man now is completely without. So that he doesn't remove anybody's teeth, he should be toothless. What kind of justice is this? Somebody wounded you for a reason or another. You go to kill him and his children and his grandchildren and his grandmother and everybody in the village. What kind of justice is this? There is that famous saying in the Arab world: one rotten onion destroys the whole bag. So instead of getting that rotten onion out, you throw the whole bag into a problem. And that has been the culture of revenge, which was difficult even for the leaders to put across a law. Because then the revenge part of it becomes more stronger than what has been before. There was a woman who was too noisy to the husband years back in my village. I learned it from my fathers. That woman was only having problem with the husband. They barely sleep one night without a fight. So they fight every day, 7 days a week, they fight. So one time, the husband became very angry, threw the woman down, got a piece of stone, the one they use for grinding, and he started cracking the head of this woman bit by bit, all over. So much that as if the woman has been actually eaten by a crocodile. The whole head is full of too many wounds. And the woman was brought to the hospital. And the doctors were so amazed. They don't know what to do. You cannot stitch. The whole head is to be treated. The man was arrested and put in prison. After the woman became better, she said, "Where is my husband?" And they said, "He is in prison." He said, "No, he should be released. He is my husband. How can you imprison my husband?" He said, "But he caused you problem." He said, "That is not your problem. It is my problem. It is my problem with my husband." And the law stopped. And the man was to be released. After this woman spent 3 months in the hospital, the husband 3 months in prison, yet the woman came up and said strongly, I want my husband out. Can you see that love? Who has that love among you? How many people you have thrown into the prison and they are there? This is serious. And this is exactly where Jesus is saying, forgiveness from the heart. And this is what is lacking in us, in our situation today. How should we as Christians deal with those who offend us? Those with different thinking. There are people who don't think like us. How many times should a Christian forgive? This is what Peter asked. Because Peter was used to the old law. Forgiveness is a service of justice. If you want to serve justice, you must have an element and an attitude of forgiveness. In the readings of the gospel, we have heard that man who was supposed to be sold with all what he has, he himself to be sold, the wife to be sold, the children to be sold, the properties to be sold, and still, those people, when they are sold, they cannot even meet the amount that man has eaten. And finally, the Lord told him, anyway, you are forgiven. And he was grateful. But then when he went out, he met somebody who had few pounds, who borrowed from him. And he caught that man from the neck, beat him first, and throw him to prison. Something that is payable. Something that is refundable. He himself has been forgiven big debt. If you hear that explanation of that amount, our biblical scholars are saying, the amount that man has consumed would have taken him 200 years to pay, given his salary. If it is to be calculated, it would have taken him 200 years to pay that amount, the one he squandered. And here he has a brother who has borrowed from him, maybe from that same money which he got from his master, and he threw him to prison. And his master was angry and said, can you not do the same to yourself, to your brother? And this is exactly where the problem is. Where the problem is. What is going on in our country is lack of this. Is lack of this. Unless we feel that the other person feels like me, he or she deserves life. Imagine this woman, after wounds, uncountable wounds in her head, she released her husband. And she said, this is my husband. He wounded me. He tried to kill me. But at the same time, he is my husband. I need him out. It is a very strong testimony. Because if you kill a person, you and the whole of your sibling to be wiped out. This is exactly where the problem is. Where is justice? The problem of one person becomes the problem of everybody. How many times have you fallen a victim? How many times you have been a perpetrator of injustice? It is the balance. It is the balance. Sometimes you know that you are making injustice to a person, and yet you claim to override this. For God's sake, we are called today that punishment which is not proportional is not Christian. It's not Christian. If we meditate on our situation where there is rebellion in the country, political instability, economic downturn, too much death, displacement, somebody even don't know what is happening completely. Somebody even don't know why his village is to be taken by somebody else. You just don't know. You just come to find that some people have arrived and they are pushing your village away, and you have to go away. Who can explain this? Yet that person has his own village. He has his own town. But now he leaves that, he goes to take the one of the other. This itself is a serious issue that requires personal interior conversion. Because if we reach to this level, then we are really cursed. We are cursed. Because even if our neighbor make noise, she is our neighbor, he is our neighbor, he will have to be told, you think about me, because tomorrow you need me. You need me. We are told not to exact vengeance, nor must we bear a grudge against the children of people. You must love your neighbor as yourself. As I said, what do you do with this neighbor who is too noisy, who is too destructive? He is a neighbor, but he is destructive. How do you bring him to attention and tell him to mind justice? That is a Christian attitude. We are called today to remember our last days. I repeatedly say it here every day. Remember your last day, when your only gift will be the coffin. The only gift the society, the community will offer you will be the coffin. If you are lucky, you will be brought to church. If you are unlucky, you will be taken straight away. Remember that day. There is no option. There is no option. You have heard about the death of the apostles, Muskida, and the one of the popes, and the cardinals, and the bishops, and the clergy, the people who are said to be near God every day. Even God did not forgive them and leave them to stay for life. Muskida, they are also limited. They die. Now, you behave as if you are in eternal life. That is not correct. So we are told today, the first reading from the book of Sirach says, remember the last days. Whenever you do things in your life, think twice of the present situation you are in and the future. That was why Desmond Tutu says, there is no future without forgiveness. And this future without forgiveness concerns me and the other. Concerns me and the other. That we are not for ourselves. The second reading tells us today, if we live for the Lord. If we die for the Lord. Full stop.
Sotli Mustama.